Hello and welcome to this episode of Sports Weekly India. We've got the usual team in house. We've got Ayaz Memon, we've got RK, and we've of course got Soumil Arora joining us. Remember, we're in the midst of a FIFA World Cup, and of course, we will be focusing on that. On the show, you'll also have a roundup of everything that went on in the rest of the sporting world, from India's tour to New Zealand and much more. But the big focus remains on the football. To kick off things, see what I did there? We've got RK and Soumil joining us. Welcome, gents. How's it looking in the World Cup for you guys?
Too many late nights for me. That's for starters. Just getting a sense that I'm getting old now because done a few late nights starting at 12:30 kickoffs till about 2:30. I'm in a zombie mode now. That's how the World Cup is going for me. What about you, Soumil?
It's crazy. Pretty much the same. I think I can handle it a little bit more because I'm so young in that case. But it's still so crazy, right? Because you stay up late at night expecting a good game of football. Sometimes the matches from a footballing perspective are terrible. I mean, you just don't get to see anything until the 89th minute and someone scores a surprise winner. And all of a sudden you're like, hey, wait a minute. A big team like Belgium could be out. So these sort of things are really intriguing me. But at the end of the day, it's a World Cup of surprises. And I think we're getting to see more of a World Cup rather than a European Cup in a way. And that, I think, is a very, very good thing to see.
That's a very good point, in fact. And let's jump straight to it. This is, I think, one of those crazy upsets World Cup. You know, we've had Germany lose, we've had Argentina lose, and Belgium. Did someone say they were the number 2 team in the world? Because they're definitely not playing like that. What do you make of that, Soumil? I mean, usually in a World Cup, yes, big stage, someone punches above their weight and you will have the odd upset. But these are 3 big giants that have been felled.
Yeah, exactly. I think Belgium, firstly, that was the biggest one that surprised me. Because, as you rightly mentioned, they've got everyone in that one big team. Like, they've got De Bruyne, Courtois, Lukaku, among others. This should have really been their tournament. But I think losing to Morocco is the worst possible outcome that they could have had. And I think when RK shared that interview link where De Bruyne said, oh, well, we might not win this because we're too old, I'm still really confused about that. What did he mean? And it kind of shows because Belgium have played like an aging team. Sure, they've got young players who support them up as well, but the mentality seemed lost, defeated. It's like they didn't want to be here. And that is just very unlike of Belgium from what we've seen in 2014 and 2018, where they were so exciting. So I'm not surprised, but still surprised in a way. It seems absurd because their behavior on the field is kind of giving a clear indication that, okay, they are meant to lose, but it's Belgium, right? So how does that happen?
I mean, a lot of individual talent there. But what about Germany, RK? Historically, this is a team that's always been very well oiled. I mean, German precision and all of that very typically thrown about. But they just look very disjointed and they've scored 1 goal. They've managed 1 point in 2 games. How unlike them?
I know on one end we do say this, and I completely buy your point of view, because when it comes to World Cup, suddenly from out of absolutely nowhere, Germany can spring up to life. But I think if you look at the history, the recent history, I'm not even talking about the turn of the century because they were brilliant when they started off under Joachim Löw. But I think recent history towards the end of Joachim Löw's tenure and Hansi Flick taking over, I don't think Germany have been the force that we are normally used to seeing them as. I know we keep talking about the fact that I know as a substitute, you had somebody coming in and scoring a goal towards the end of it, saving the blushes, so to speak, and therefore they are still in the race. But look, with due respects, I think what happened with German football was Löw towards the end of it said, thank you, but for the services of the likes of Müller and others, that didn't go down well in the dressing room itself with some of the senior players. And then you had Hansi Flick, who obviously had a decent CV, coming in and saying, let's reintegrate, let's start afresh and stuff. I think somewhere down the line, look, Germany, as you said, is almost like a machine normally when it comes to World Cup. But this German side, I'm not too sure what they are looking at as a team. Are they that proper, the Mannschaft machine, as they call them, passing, stay with the ball, go forward, attack, clinical, finish it? Like the Lothar Matthäus era, or when Klinsmann obviously scored those goals of the years gone by. Because I just don't see too much there. Because even in that game where they won, they did not seem to have much. And suddenly you had a proper number 9 being sent in, who himself doesn't have a great experience at the international stage. I think he was playing for Werder Bremen, till about a year back. And Werder Bremen was at that point in time, if I'm not mistaken, playing second-tier football in Germany. So where are the superstars? Where are the big boys? Sane isn't the fittest. He's had his fair share of injuries. When you look at the bench, I suddenly look at it and saying, why is Sane not starting? But Sane hasn't been fit. He's had his issue with the knee, even when he was at Manchester City. And that's why the transfer also took a bit of time. So many things haven't gone down very well with Germany in the recent past. So that's why I know, as much as we build up Germany in these big game tournaments, the recent history suggests that Germany don't seem to be that Germany of the old.
That's a great point. And I think this is also being borne out by the fact that football's become a far more global game. A lot of more Asian, African players have had exposure for extended periods now in Europe, in some of the most competitive leagues. They've been able to take that experience back and bring their teams up to a level where, they've at least been able to say, look, these are humans after all. You don't have to worry. It's possible for us to beat them. I mean, Morocco beating Belgium, I think, is the best case in point, where they probably said, look, this is an aging team. Don't look at their reputations. Look at who they are right now, and let's take them on. So it's an interesting setup right now. We've seen these upsets, but we've also seen some of the old guard really shine through. France looks like they're on a tear to go and defend the title. Brazil are really, really coming back to life after the last couple of World Cups. And Spain started off on as high a note as it can get. Who's impressed you the most so far, Soumil, from all of the other teams? I mean, these are just the 3 that I've called out.
On one end, I'm very impressed by the results that Brazil are generating, but watching them has been a proper pain because they are such a defensive team in a good way, right? They don't let goals get past them. But at the same time, they're just missing that little magic, because whenever you see the midfield pass the ball to Vinicius, you're like, oh, well, amazing. He's going to make something happen. But then 3 out of 4 times it gets called as offside. You're like, come on, man. I wanted to see Brazil score a goal. So it should have been more. They've scored a few. They've won some great games and scored some great goals, by the way. Casemiro's amazing volley. Richarlison with that semi-bicycle kick of sorts. So they're fun to watch in highlights, but watching a full game is tough. But I think what the most important part is they're not cracking under pressure. And that is unlike other big teams. Like England had a lot of pressure against the USA. They were able to bottle it over there. Argentina, we've seen already with that Saudi Arabia match last week. So the important part is that they're making it through. But I think I'd agree with you. Not France, because I still expect an implosion coming through. The squad is not first rate, and eventually they will, I get a feeling, falter. But Spain and Brazil, I think these two are going to be the 2 big teams to watch for, especially Spain, because, as RK mentioned, the fluidity in the midfield early on, with all these Barcelona players running the midfield, running the engine, but now with, let's say, more communicative strikers, because you don't have Lewandowski up top, right? You have a Morata who is, let's say, more integrated into the style of play. So eventually it benefits them, and I think Spain could be the 1 big team to watch for, if, of course, we're not talking about Netherlands, because they too look pretty decent.
The Dutch are the ones that I expect will choke at some point. I mean, interesting conversation somewhere recently where someone called the Netherlands the South Africa of football. I have no disrespect for either of those teams. Maybe you can call the Netherlands or South Africa the Netherlands of cricket. Moving on, there's been some really good performances that have come through. Messi, Ronaldo, are they just under too much pressure? Ronaldo's also scored, but are they overmarked? Are they just not getting the freedom? Or are they missing the quality of supply for them to finish? RK, what do you think?
Well, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think on the global stage, on the World Cup events or the continental events, let's be honest about it, I think Ronaldo has done a lot more than Messi. I mean, that's the fact. That's the hard truth. They've won the Euros. They've done all right as far as the World Cups are concerned. And I think Portugal this time, probably you'll get to see a bit more of them, only because of the fact that it was always about Ronaldo up until this point in time. That's how I would look at it. Because Ronaldo, all said and done, is not getting younger. He's 37, 38 at the moment. There is Bruno Fernandes there. There are others there who are just stepping up and doing the job. It's not only about Ronaldo anymore. And that's the sense that I get this time, at least, when it comes to Portugal. So in that sense, I think Ronaldo, I'm not too sure about the pressure, because I think compared to Messi, him and Portugal have done a lot more on the international stage. Because you look at Messi's career overall with Argentina, no disrespect, but I think what has Argentina won with Messi around is the question that people will ask. Not to take anything away from what he's done as a footballer, as I think Figo recently mentioned that it doesn't matter what happens to a Ronaldo or a Messi in the World Cup, that should not tarnish the image of them being absolute superstars because they've done so much to the game. But I think what Copa America in 2019 is what they won. And that was the first big ticket tournament that Argentina won. But before that, after that, so far, nothing much. And I honestly thought after their loss to Saudi Arabia, their chances are as good as over, is what I thought, to be honest. And therefore, Messi might just end up with absolutely nothing. So, pressure, I think, to quickly summarize, I think Messi has also gone beyond that pressure. Because now you're almost used to, if it had been the first, the second, the third, or the fourth, you're constantly trying to say, what's happening to Messi? What's happening to Messi? Now you're almost saying that, oh no, not again, kind of a feeling. That's about it. I mean, as a neutral, I'm just looking at it and saying, look, if it happens, it's great. But if it doesn't happen, it's not as if it's the first time that's happening. It's happened before.
Absolutely. And, there's also been a lot of unknowns or new names that have, as always, started to come to the fore. Some that pop to mind, Enna Valencia started the tournament on a very big high, great goals. Cody Gakpo of the Netherlands has been making waves. I mean, he's actually been on the radar of a lot of teams for the last couple of years. I think this World Cup has more or less established him as one of the stars to watch out for alongside maybe Erling Haaland. Unfortunately, he's not featuring here because, well, Norway didn't make it, did they? Richarlison is having a late resurgence, making it to the Brazil team, scoring that fantastic goal to get their campaign off the ground. And now with Neymar out, I think it's just going to put the spotlight further on him. Soumil, any thoughts? Any other names that pop to mind right now to highlight and that that we should watch out for?
Jude Bellingham. So long as he's okay, because there are some rumors swirling around that he might be rested for Jordan Henderson in England's next game. So that is going to be interesting. I think I want to see how that plays out. But Bellingham, in all the matches that he's played so far, has had an influential role. He's been playing around with the midfield, and I just didn't understand why they didn't pair him up with Phil Foden in the last match that England played against the USA, because that would have been a great pair. They were showing some great chemistry in their first matchup against Iran. So I think Bellingham has got to be one. And I think Olmo from Spain is also doing pretty well, right? Dani Olmo. He's consistently creating chances in the midfield for Spain whenever he's come on. He's trying launch shots. He's trying to put balls that are working. And I think he's going to be one very interesting player to watch for all the way through in the next couple of rounds. But seriously, the one thing I'm genuinely scared of is how England play in this first group. Because now, if they end up drawing or losing against Wales or something other happens, right? Because we've seen random things happen in this World Cup. They could suddenly be back home, even though they've got probably their best squad in years. So I don't know how that's going to play out. That's absurd.
Folks, this is your pilot. We have to land immediately and hurry to the Xfinity Black Friday sale. New Xfinity customers can get 400 megabit internet for $30 a month for 2 years with a 1-year contract, unlimited data, and a free 4K streaming box included. Plus, now through December 5th, get HBO Max included for a year.
Drop everything and get to the Xfinity Black Friday sale. Go to Xfinity.com to learn more. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. Ad-supported plan of HBO Max. After promo, regular rates apply.
Well, speaking of how this lines up, it's almost time for the final 16. I mean, as we record this, Group A and Group B will be decided in the next few hours. By all accounts, the Netherlands should go through unless the aforementioned implosion really happens. But even then, they'll be really, really hard-pressed to not make it through. They're sitting on a decent +2 goal difference and they play Qatar. So they'd have to lose by a lot to not make it through. Ecuador-Senegal is an interesting one. It's a shootout. A draw does not help Senegal, so they need to win. So I think that's going to be a game to watch out for with both teams really, really going for the win. You guys looking forward to that one? RK?
Yeah, I think... if Netherlands lose to Qatar, then, they don't have any business of getting across to the next round, to be honest. But Ecuador versus Senegal should be an interesting one, but get a feeling that Ecuador, with the kind of run that they seemingly have, should do it. No, Soumil, I think Ecuador with Ener Valencia, I know people suddenly have taken notice of Ener Valencia, but look, I think he had about 4 or 5 years, decent years with West Ham United. He used to be a part of my FPL team regularly. Come on, guys. It's not that bad, but I know.
Did he score well for you?
Yeah, I know he's gotten a bit old, but Ener Valencia is not new to the world stage. Good to see him perform in that particular side, but I would still fancy Netherlands and Ecuador from that particular group.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. Yeah.
All right. The most interesting one for me is the Wales, England, and Iran USA matchup. And we were just speaking before the show that it's hypothetically still possible for England to not make it. I think the only thing that will really serve them well is the 6-2 win that they had in their opening game. Iran USA, who do you pick, Soumil? I'd actually go with Iran.
I agree with you because the USA, they've been rock solid, but they've not had that same level of goal scoring prowess that I think Iran have shown in the last match. So I think I'll go for Iran in that one, but very, very close. But also, it's going to be a big match, right, politically, because lots of West versus conservative whole backdrop surrounding it, lots of protesters from Iran coming up.
And I wonder who that's going to be more distracting for, whether it's going to distract Iran more or the US more. It's going to distract the US more than it'll distract Iran. Moving on, the big one. And Poland versus Argentina, Saudi Arabia versus Mexico. Argentina just has to win this. Otherwise, that's going to be one heck of an exit. They have a win to their name. So do Saudi Arabia. So does Poland. I think there's a realistic possibility here that Mexico, well, they have an outside chance, But do you see Argentina not making it through, guys? RK? They're one of the crowd favorites.
Yeah, that is true. But I'm only looking at what can happen if say, Poland can score in the first 30 to 40 minutes, or rather first 15 to 30 minutes. I'm just looking at that game and saying, because from whatever little I've seen of Poland, they're quick on the counter. I know they haven't got, they've got not the youngest striker in Lewandowski, but the fact is they suddenly are good on the counter. They're very quick on the counter. So we'll be curious to see how Argentina start this game. Whether they're going to go for it, whether they're going to sit back to begin with. Look, they've got the stars, don't get me wrong. But it's a side that I still feel can be hit on the counter. And Poland is not bad when it comes to hitting on the counter. So that's why I'm a bit worried about Argentina. But who knows what can happen.
If Poland and Argentina draw, and if Saudi Arabia beats Mexico, Argentina's out.
It's all with their own doing, isn't it?
Yeah, and we could possibly be seeing Messi for the last time on the World Cup stage. It is definite. He's probably never going to play the World Cup again, but what a way to go.
Actually, sorry to jump in there. Actually, I never expected a couple of results. One, obviously, Argentina, Saudi Arabia is not something that I expected. Saudi Arabia winning that was probably one of the greatest ever upsets in the history of World Cup. That's one. And secondly, even when we were talking about the previous group, I thought England wouldn't score as many goals against Iran as they did. Iran can play that low block. I remember one of those games, I think 2014 World Cup, I think Argentina, Iran. And they did really well to hold off Messi till about the 89th minute or somewhere around that. There's one chance that Argentina had and Messi scored at that point in time. So I never expected that kind of a scoreline against Iran. I probably might have expected against some other teams, but Iran was a bit disappointing in that game. So Argentina, if they go out, look, they don't have anybody to blame but themselves, having lost to Saudi Arabia.
Absolutely. Well, there's a little bit of sanity prevailing in the next group where France is already through to the last 16. They're really playing like champions. But interesting team, Australia, that actually makes it through to the next round because they played Denmark in what actually again becomes a virtual shootout where winner takes it all. I really don't see Tunisia doing anything to France, at best a draw. So that kind of rules them out or them playing spoil sport in any other way. So Australia, Denmark, winner takes all. If it's a draw, Australia's actually through. And I just hope that the opportunity Australia places themselves in right now, they don't go for a draw and start playing negatively. They do have a few great playmakers up front. They should try and win. And Denmark does seem a team that is slightly out of sorts. Soumil, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. 100%. Denmark, they're not 100% there tactically because you look at the midfield engine room that they've got and you'd expect, okay, wow, they're going to play some real fluent football, but it's just not converting in terms of many goals. But they have got enough quality to get past Australia. So I'm not very worried about that. But again, weirder and wilder things have happened in this World Cup. So I'm not going to speculate too much on that, but I'm confident about Denmark, but not overly confident, if that makes sense.
Oh, this is the fun group now, isn't it? Spain, Japan, Costa Rica, Germany. And the least favorite to make it through here is Germany. Who would have thought? Spain with a win and a draw, Japan with a win and a loss, Costa Rica with a win and a loss, and Germany with a draw and a loss. And they now face Costa Rica, who beat Japan, who had beaten Germany, and I don't know. I'm expecting a draw out of the Costa Rica Germany match, which kind of puts Germany out. And I expect Spain and Japan to also play out a draw, which sees Spain and Japan go through both on goal difference. Costa Rica, poor guys, unless they win against Germany, have very little chance, just because they conceded 7 goals to Spain in their opening game. RK, did you catch that one?
Yeah, I did catch that one. Again, I was just looking at that group, which I mean, obviously the Costa Rica win has obviously thrown a few things open there. Because again, in terms of results, in terms of the sheer number of goals, look, I like the way Spain play, but I never expected them to score as many goals against Costa Rica as much as they scored. Because Costa Rica is not that bad a side, actually. Traditionally, when you go through where they've played their group stages, at least, I know once it comes to a round of 16, it's a very different ball game altogether. But the group stages, they're not that bad a side. And Japan, after having done what they did against Germany, you would have expected them to do all right against Costa Rica, which did not happen.
Absolutely.
In a sense, I'm suddenly beginning to believe, has it given Germany a bit of a lifeline there? And so if Germany can, win the last one and get to 4, yeah, I mean, rightfully, one would have ideally wanted Spain and Germany from this group, but Japan, Costa Rica obviously had other ideas. Spain should still get through. I mean, I don't see Spain.
Well, they lose to Japan, Costa Rica beats Germany, the whole world is topsy-turvy.
No, the only reason why I say that, Adi, is I think Spain are one of the sides which I think can do well against teams that are only defending when they play their low blocks. It's a bit like, obviously, I mean, it's a bit like Man City, right? I mean, you've got Pep Guardiola there. Here, I mean, you've got Luis Enrique. I mean, both are Barcelona products. They know how to keep the ball, which they do. They expect a lot of teams to go play that low block defensive style. They always have that 1 or 2 passes. I mean, the likes of Pedri and Gavi, I mean, they're just sublime. I mean, I just looked at that opening game of Spain and it just went, wow. One of the teams that actually keep you awake in the middle of the night is Spain, to be honest. I mean, just the sheer, the way they pass, the way they move forward. They've got their bases covered. So I'll be really shocked if Spain don't get through with the quality of football that they're playing.
So Spain and Japan to go through, you think?
Spain, right?
Spain, Japan is the match. And we've got Costa Rica and Germany in Group E.
Germany should win, no?
Germany should win, but they need to, I mean, I'm looking at goal differences. They're -1.
They got 4.
They've got a -1 goal difference. Japan has a 0. So they need at least a 2-goal win.
Yeah.
This is not hard. I mean, to be honest, they can beat Costa Rica 2-0. Japan draws. Germany goes through. Yeah. So, yeah, that'll be a fun group to follow. I'm so happy I don't belong to either of those countries right now. Well, another very exciting group is Group F, where Belgium have completely played unlike themselves, find themselves third placed. Thankfully, they have a win to their name. Canada has been eliminated already, and Canada actually now play Morocco, who did a great job of beating Belgium and have already drawn against Croatia. So if a Moroccan win is not out of the question here against Canada, Soumil, right?
It is not. But I think this is when we find out, are they really a one-match wonder or are they really genuinely a good team? Because sure enough, a Saudi Arabia can beat an Argentina, but can you sustain it? Saudi haven't been able to. Can Morocco do the same thing? I think that's the intriguing question, because we all know that they've got more than enough good players. Good enough to beat Belgium? Maybe not so much, but again, that's happened. But Canada have looked like easy meat, if you could put it that way. Right? It's just low-hanging fruit. Go out there, bash as many goals as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Because, okay, let's not put them too much into the ground. It's a young team. It's the first time they're ever playing on the global stage. So, got to give them credit for that one. But I really expect Morocco to go ahead. What I'm actually genuinely looking forward to is Croatia versus Belgium. Because that is one match where if even we get a draw, Croatia is out, Belgium's gone.
If Croatia, Belgium is drawn and Morocco beats Canada, Belgium's out. Croatia and Morocco go through. They're both on 4.
Exactly. And so all of a sudden the world is crazy once again. So yeah, that's one match I'm very excited to see, Croatia versus Belgium, because Croatia as well, they've not got that same squad as before, but can they just make out that one good performance in the middle?
Don't know what to say anymore, but I do see Croatia and Morocco making it through here, because Morocco should at least draw against Canada, and Croatia, Belgium, I don't think Belgium really has what it takes to beat Croatia right now. the Croats have really been doing well.
And in the previous group, I'm just thinking now, I know a bit late actually. In the previous group, I think Spain and Germany should go through. No?
That's what you'd want happening, but
No, I would think Germany should beat Costa Rica, and Spain, I guess, should beat Japan there. I don't see a draw. I don't know. So, I mean, suddenly Germany goes to 4 points, Japan stay at 3, and Costa Rica stay at 3.
I don't think history has anything to do with this World Cup the way things are going right now.
Fair enough.
And it's completely on form on the day, which is what we've seen. I mean, the point Soumil just made about Saudi Arabia not being able to sustain what they were able to do against Argentina and losing to Poland. But I'm still going with Spain and Japan just for the heck of it. It'll be a much more fun next round happening.
Okay.
The last two groups, Brazil already through and Portugal already through from their respective groups. But there is a little bit up for grabs in Group G, where we have Switzerland and Serbia. Switzerland far better placed. Also, Cameroon take on Brazil, and I really don't see Cameroon doing anything there. So the Switzerland-Serbia game, it could throw up a surprise. Switzerland, knowing the way they are conservative on the field of play, not otherwise, should be happy with a draw to go through. But Serbia might have other plans. A Serbian win could just put them through to the next round. Happy so far for Brazil, Soumil, but curious about where Serbia might land up.
Very much. I think watch out for Alexander Mitrovic, because in the Premier League this year, he's been scoring some great headers. He's been a proper poacher. And in the World Cup as well, I mean, there have been many chances that have come to him. I just want to see how well they can do it, right? Because he scored in that last match against Cameroon as well. He's on a bit of a hot patch in his career. And sure, Switzerland are very defensive, as you rightly mentioned, very stable in the low block, but they can be broken down with occasional moments of brilliance. And I think that could happen with Serbia. So watch out for them. I'm very excited because their style is so rapid, so energetic. When you're watching Serbia, and normally when you think of Serbia as a country, you're like, Serbia. But in football, they're always so exciting.
But yeah, Portugal's through, so that's good. South Korea has been disappointing, to say the least. They did put up a really good show against Ghana, to be honest. But we've seen this on more than one occasion in this World Cup, where teams have had great periods of 5 or 10 minutes and have scored goals and then just completely lost the plot again. Son has absolutely not done anything. I don't know why he's masquerading, whatever his issues are, but he just doesn't look match ready for the World Cup, if you ask me. RK?
Understandably so. I think, to be honest, I would cut the slack on Son, because I don't think he's played because of his injury. I mean, he's obviously a superstar player, which is why he's a part of the squad. And if he can weave some magic, is why he's essentially a part here. But you're right. I mean, Portugal, but again, mostly they should be finishing on top, right at the top, right? Unless Ghana does something spectacular. So ideally, you would want a top, which means that straight away avoiding Brazil there. Yeah, I'm just looking at it in terms of how the Portuguese manager would want to calculate getting into this game. So draw will be awesome. Even if you're losing, you don't want to lose by much, is how I would look at it, because ideally I would want to retain the top place and hope that you don't get to face Serbia. Because I think Switzerland, Cameroon, I think they can definitely manage. Serbia could be a slightly different and a tricky opposition for Portugal going forward.
Absolutely. I mean, given the matches, Korea, Portugal should win that on current form. And Ghana, Uruguay, I expect Ghana to go through because they've just been far more attacking. And Uruguay looks like an aged team. Suarez, I had to do a double take when I thought it was Maradona for a second there, not in his prime. So they just don't look like a team that have anything going for them right now.
Yeah, I mean, Uruguay, I actually, traditionally when you look at Uruguay, you kind of expect a bit more from Uruguay. But it's been underwhelming. I mean, Suarez, I know there's so much happened with him in the recent past, the whole emotional drama that happened with him moving away from Barcelona, or forced him away from Barcelona, moved on to Atletico. I mean, honestly, they did all right at the end of the day in that particular season. So I know a few things have happened, but he's not the same Suarez that we used to see at Liverpool. Let's put it that way. I mean, I think that was the best phase of Suarez.
Absolutely. Well, if our predictions come about the way we have spoken of it so far, we should be seeing Netherlands play Iran, Poland take on Australia, Spain face Croatia, Brazil, Ghana, England, Ecuador, France, Argentina. That'll be one to watch out for. Morocco, Japan, and Portugal, Switzerland. So to your point, RK, Portugal avoiding Brazil in the immediate next round, it actually goes a little beyond that, because then it just puts them in the other half of the draw. Then you don't risk facing Brazil in any of the next rounds. So some amazing games coming up. We've got a bit of a bracket situation going here. Unfortunately, our listeners won't be able to see it, but permutation combinations, and things don't look so good for England no matter where they land up, because the path ahead is not easy at all.
Every one of those countries, got a bit of history associated with it. So if England eventually end up meeting Argentina, there's a massive rivalry there. There's the whole deal of Falklands will come into play. Wow, there's so much that we can look forward to going forward. But obviously depends on what England and how England turn up, and Argentina need to win their game as well.
Yeah, I really want Argentina to finish in the top 2 and have this France-Argentina, then a possible England-Argentina, then a possible, I don't know who, whether England or Argentina or France could play Portugal. Just some amazing games coming up here.
Imagine an Argentina-Portugal at some point in time.
Oh, Messi versus Ronaldo. That could potentially be a semi-final. I don't even want to hazard a final 2 or a winner right now, because the way the form has fluctuated, you could even see Iran knock out Netherlands in the round of 16, and we could just go on and on about this. Well, 2 Manchester United fans commenting on the World Cup. Here we go.
I know we can't predict a winner right here, but I just want to see Harry Maguire playing. Maybe against an attack like Spain somehow, if we just get there, right? Because he's been showing some decent form lately. I just want him to perform well so that Manchester United can offload him at a good time for a good price. Good for us, good business maybe, but too hopeful maybe.
Poor guy, Harry Maguire. When he plays well, the English press goes, just imagine if our best player is Harry Maguire, less said the better about the team. If he doesn't play well, obviously it's about Harry Maguire. We know what he is or what he isn't, and therefore it's Harry Maguire. Poor man, actually. Seriously, I feel for him.
Well, that was definitely interesting, most enlightening, and let's move on to the cricketing world with Ayaz and RK. Well, that's all about the Football World Cup, and that action will continue for a few more weeks as we vie for what should hopefully be a brand new world champion. But while the football world turns, the cricket world also turns. There is some action happening in New Zealand. India continues to struggle in white ball cricket. England are headed to Pakistan for the first time in 17 years. Joining us is Ayaz Memon to discuss that and all other sporting activities around the world. Welcome to the show, Ayaz.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
So what do you make of India's performance in New Zealand? They've definitely struggled. The T20s were not too bad. The tied T20 got us the series, but the one-day team just looked all out of sorts. What's happening?
So I think, look, if you're looking for answers going ahead, and now we're talking of ODIs as well as T20s, because that's been the mantra, so to speak, of the BCCI, new selection panel coming in, etc., etc. The World Cup coming up next year, the ODI World Cup, and then planning for the T20 World Cup a couple of years ahead. What are we looking at from the New Zealand leg? I think what we've seen so far is Surya Kumar Yadav reiterating his, explosive appearance in the T20 format. Certainly, I don't think he's left any doubt now that currently, on current form, he's the preeminent batsman in that format. Barring none. You can take whichever team, you can include Joss Butler or Rohit Sharma or even a Virat Kohli. But I think for sure consistency and the fearlessness and the fantastic repertoire of strokes that he's shown, I think he's easily the number one batsman. And hey, that's a big, big plus point. And hopefully this continues for some while or till the next World Cup. The other thing I thought which was a plus was Umran Malik getting a breakthrough finally. And in the ODIs against New Zealand, very impressive first spell. In fact, on a placid wicket, impressive bowling throughout. And it perhaps kind of showed that maybe, just maybe, the team management, not just the selectors, the team management, which is Rahul Dravid and Rohit Sharma and maybe some of the other senior players who were the think tank, so to speak, could have punted on him for the T20 World Cup, taken him to Australia as part of the squad rather than just as a standby. But these are all, ifs and buts and whatever else. But he's clearly a find for the future between him and Arshdeep teaming up with Jasprit Bumrah and Mohammad Shami. It's just such a mouth-watering prospect. And I'm talking not, just of T20 format, even in ODIs. And then if everything goes well, Arshdeep, I think, is going to be a fine addition even into red ball cricket because, A, he brings a variety of a left-arm fast bowler. He's got late swing either way. And he's a very clever bowler. He's got great temperament. So there are things that are looking up despite a flop show in the T20 World Cup and not such an impressive show so far in New Zealand.
Absolutely. RK, my bigger concern from India's performance in New Zealand has been around captaincy. I mean, we seem to be jumping from captain to captain. Yes, we've also advocated the need for different captains for different formats. We saw that probably Rohit Sharma can't handle the pressure in the T20s. Shikhar Dhawan's probably someone who's not been earmarked as a player for the future, yet here he is leading the team. Do you really see Shikhar Dhawan leading India in the World Cup next year?
It's a tough question to answer, to be honest. I think the fact that he's one of the senior players in the side in the absence of a few others, he's not that he's leading India for the first time. It has happened before. He led once in Sri Lanka, where India did well. And he's obviously going to gain captaincy experience because he's been officially nominated as the captain of Punjab Kings going forward in T20 in this edition of the IPL. Probably when Rohit Sharma comes, he's going to go back and be the captain. But I think Shikhar Dhawan is a one-day international player. I think there's an opportunity definitely for him to be a part of the group. And therefore, probably the management is trying to say that, look, you are an integral part of the side. And therefore, in the absence of a few others, you are also one of the senior members. And therefore, you're going to captain this particular side. So that's one way of looking at it. But just adding to what Ayaz Bhai was talking about with respect to Umran Malik, I think in hindsight, it probably would have been great to have an Umran Malik as a part of that World Cup squad. And also with respect to the white ball series, it was in a sense a bit of a weird one, isn't it? Because it was a truncated series. You didn't know when the game was about to start. You didn't know when the game was about to end, with the rain playing a bit of a hide and seek or the sun playing a bit of a hide and seek. So I probably looked at that series from three angles, honestly. One is I wanted to watch Washington Sundar as to how he performed, because he could be an important all-rounder going forward in one-day international cricket. Secondly, I wanted to understand how the team management is looking at Rishabh Pant and also how, say, Sanju Samson is being looked at. And number three, of course, Umran Malik. These were the three players that I was concentrating on, because let's be honest about it, this is not going to be your 11 for the ODI World Cup. So I'm only looking at the series as with respect to individual performance. And therefore, I thought Washington did well. Umran Malik did well, as Ayaz Bhai said, in that first spell, he was very, very good. And 10 overs, 2 for 66 is not a bad deal at all. And Sanju Samson, for the need of an extra bowler, you had to sacrifice a Sanju Samson. But I can sense that you can't keep him out for too long. I'm sure the chances are coming, especially with plenty of bilaterals coming through early next year in India.
Absolutely. I mean, it is a very strange series given that it's happening right on the back of the World T20. Rather a pointless series, if you ask me. I think it's something India's playing just because they're already over there.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what RK said, and I actually said about Shikhar Dhawan. I think that the Indian, I mean, there's no selection panel now. Hopefully, it'll be formed in the next week or so. But I think India is in a bit of a quandary because he's a backup to the backup captain, I mean, your captain is Rohit Sharma, your vice captain is KL Rahul, who's now under a bit of a cloud. And then there is Shikhar Dhawan, who's actually, some people might feel a little long in the tooth. By the time the next ODI comes, he'll be a year older. And therefore, yes, maybe as a batsman, as a right-left combination, he's still showing that he's got very good form. But is he the captaincy option? Is something that will have to be hard thought. Because if you look back 3-4 months ago, everybody's talking of Rishabh Pant as a captain, possibly, if it's not KL Rahul. And he was also tried as a captain in a couple of matches. So there's it's a state of flux where the captaincy is concerned. And I completely agree with RK's point that these were the 3-4 areas that they were looking at. Washington Sundar, Rishabh Pant, Umran Malik, and at least 2 boxes seem to have been ticked, which is Washington Sundar and Umran Malik. The only issue about Washington Sundar, if you look at the last 18-20 months, he's had an up-down kind of a career because he's been so injury prone, or just seems to be bogged down by injury. Hopefully that's the end of the injury phase and it's the restart of his cricketing career consistently.
Absolutely. Well, moving on to something a little more meaningful. England have landed in Pakistan for the first time in 17 years, and there is a fair bit of excitement. You have to accept, these are 2 exciting teams. What do you make of the series, RK? Something you're looking forward to in the cold winter months?
Actually, you know what? When I think about England and Pakistan, my mind goes back to that series victory that England had in Pakistan in dimming light. I think it was Nasser Hussain at that point in time who was the captain. I think it was around that 2000, around that point in time. So that's one memory that I always have. Besides, of course, the Mike Gatting incident that goes back to the late 80s. That's a different matter altogether. But I think I'm really excited for this contest on two fronts. I think with respect to England, they're the champions in one-day internationals. They're the champions in T20. I think they would want to go that extra mile and tell the world that they are the champions of cricket all over. So I think that begins right here, right now. And therefore, I'm excited from England's perspective. From Pakistan's perspective, look, Pakistan, whenever we see them, they've always amazed us. The way they played their T20 cricket in Australia was fantastic. Just the sheer bowling variety that they have is outstanding. I'm just hoping that we get some good pitches where we can see absorbing contests. You don't want a pitch where one team wins the toss, bats for 2 days, they score about 600, the next team comes back, you just have one innings. We've seen such games, actually. But to be honest, I think at the end of the day, cricket overall, a healthy Pakistan is very, very important because, look, they are a fantastic side when in full flow. And that is why I think broadly I'm excited about this series besides anything else.
Absolutely. And not to forget that this is more or less a continuation of the tour, which previously included T20Is just before the T20 World Cup. And, well, we saw where that led up to. Ayaz, do you think that this slightly seemingly inexperienced England team can manage Pakistan conditions, crowds, the whole complexity of playing in the subcontinent?
I think this is a big challenge. I mean, don't forget that they've had a fantastic home run, beating New Zealand in the test matches and then India, and doing it, chasing totals of 300 plus and making them. This was a recast, rebooted England team in the red ball format, which really was impressive playing at home. Now, how will they fare in subcontinent conditions? I think this is a big test for Ben Stokes as the captain, Brendan McCullum as the coach, and obviously a lot of the other players. I think that, and Pakistan's pace attack, RK has mentioned, now the switch from white ball cricket to red ball cricket is their challenge. We've had, actually in Pakistan, a very exciting series against Australia last year, if you remember, or last season. What looked like to be a dull and dreary one where the pitch was, benign pitches were going to ruin any semblance of a contest, actually sprung to life and it became a very riveting contest. So I would hope that we have something like that, because absolutely take what RK is saying, a good Pakistan team, competitive Pakistan team, a team which is being played or which plays regularly against opponents who visit Pakistan is very important for the future of test cricket, certainly, and also of white ball cricket. So I'm hopeful of seeing a very exciting series. Some people like Naseem Shah and Shaheen Shah Afridi, I don't know whether he's going to be fit. I don't think he's going to be fit for this series. Neither will Mark Wood, I think, play for England. So they have some, problems with injuries. Johnny Bairstow, I think, is not going to be representing England. He had a fantastic home season. And yet, there's enough star power on both sides to make this a very engaging contest.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be watching that series very keenly, and be sure to know you'll get a lot more details about that right here on Sports Weekly India. Before we part, Ayaz, there's a great development in Indian sport with PT Usha being named the president of the Indian Olympic Association. What are your thoughts on that? She's the first woman ever to hold that post.
Yeah, I mean, like in the past, we've had, candidates for, women candidates for the post. There was Margaret Alba, who was a full-time politician. And, it seemed that maybe she will at that point in time. I don't think it happened. They were, it was a house divided, the IOA at that point in time. But this is a welcome step, I think, because PT Usha is an iconic figure in Indian sports. Now, obviously, the transition from being an athlete to being an administrator is a very challenging one, especially with the Indian Olympic Association, which is a house divided amongst itself. There have been so many problems over the last couple of years where the IOA is concerned. To bring all the federations and the national associations together is going to be severely challenging. And PT Usha can be the lodestar. I think that she's got the stature to not just to pull rank, but to get everybody to sit across the table, so to speak, and resolve differences. And hopefully that she'll be able to do.
Well, let's hope that this is the beginning of a new phase in Indian sport. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining on this episode of Weekly India. There's a lot more football, there's a lot more cricket, and as always, you'll get everything here. Remember to subscribe to us and remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back next week. Until then, thank you very much.